an emoji. Let me see the first person to... you are quite fast. I can see. Who is that? I can see... greetings from TZ. That is from Simon Frank. I can see Patricia Mwangi. Thanks so much. I can't... What? Mic is muted. All right. Greetings from Nanyuki. That is Julius Mtuma. Rosemary Atemo. I'm doing well, thanks. Greetings from Uganda. That is Elizabeth. Who else? Who else is going to tell us how their day was? Yeah, I can see a lot of love. I can see a lot of love. I can see a lot of love. I can see Tangi is doing well. That is Joseph. I can see Sarah Kungu. She has had a wonderful day. I can see the infectious smile. Greetings from Nairobi. That is from Angelina, Kenya, Ogeto. I can see Vivian Buire. Nairobi is hot. Yeah, I thought I was sick. Yes, Nairobi is. Greetings from Embu. That is from Sheila Langat. Jason Akongo, doing great. I can see Ashaba saying my day was fine. I can see Lydia Kinyo. Nyanyuki is very fine. I can see Collins. Greetings from Nairobi. I can see Joyce. She's in Kampala. Champala. She is well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start in a few minutes. We are waiting for more participants to get settled so that we can have this very important discussion going. We are going to start in the next 3 minutes as we wait for the other people to come on board. Continue sharing your emojis, how your day was. My fellow presenter is Catherine Shidandi. She's our sign language interpreter. She's going to assist us in making everybody feel more included in this discussion of money matters. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start in a few seconds. We are going to start in a few seconds. We are going to start in a few seconds. Jacinda, don't forget to record. Your host is Richard J. Magoma. Richard J. Magoma is a human resource practitioner of over 15 years. He is a trainer. He's a motivational speaker. He's a trainer in public speaking. He is also a person who prepares people for interviews, ladies and gentlemen. But tonight we are going to have a discussion about money matters, especially how do we manage debt. But before we dive into our discussion, ladies and gentlemen, let us see who have sponsored this particular discussion. We have Nile Front Cottages, very beautiful, very serene. You can go there once you've made a lot of money. It is good to learn how to take care of yourself and so that you can be able to perform at the highest level. If you want to go to other places other than the usual places that you have ever gone, go to Nile Front Cottages. It's a very nice place to be able to unwind and rest. Then we have Profiles International. They are the specialists in emotional intelligence in terms of training, psychometric tests when you're recruiting. Then in Rwanda, I was in Rwanda recently. Wow. Rwanda, Kigali, very beautiful, very clean. But when it comes to human resource management, talk about K2HR services. Those are the people to talk in Rwanda when it comes to human resource issues. Then we have Steadfast Quality Solutions, where we have Zake, our very good friend, who is a specialist in finding your strengths. If you want to find your strengths in terms of your competence, it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in TZ, whether you're in Kenya, whether you're in Uganda, Zake of Steadfast Quality Solutions, he is the person to talk to so that he can discover your strength so that you can flourish. Then we have AAR Insurance, when you're thinking about insurance. Then we have Hotel Sapphire. Hotel Sapphire is in Mombasa for those people who love adventures. And they have got very good services. If you want to drink some good coffee in Mombasa or have accommodation, think about Hotel Sapphire in Mombasa. Then we have Tufa Resort. Beautiful. You want to ride horses? Those are the people to talk to. Then we have Panessa. If you want to train or if you want to recommend training for somebody who wants to learn about developing things like chairs, beds, those very good things that we put in the house so that it can look beautiful. Panessa Training Institute is the place to be. Then we have Port Saco. If you are a great believer in savings, those are the people to talk to. They uplift your life when you want to save. Then we have Sitot Kinyumbani. They deal about properties. Ladies and gentlemen, our speaker tonight is ready. But before we bring her on board, we have other announcements to make. There is Growth Grid Mentorship Program that costs 22,000 for the early bird. It is our HR mentorship program, cohort 1, that is going to start on what date is it? On Wednesday, the 5th of February. People have started registering. You will learn about HR auditing, setting up HR department, HR policies, HR budgeting, HR reporting, performance management, disciplinary and employee separation examination, and then you will be certified. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to register for that mentorship. It is in its first cohort. Then there is this issue of protection of wages, how to navigate the landmines. Should you reduce the salary of somebody if you demote them? At what point in time do you touch somebody's payslip? Salaries are protected. I don't know what people in Uganda say, in Kampala say, but in Kenya we say you cannot touch somebody's pay without a legal basis. And we have a very good friend, Peter Kenyanjui, an advocate of the High Court, who is going to be the presenter. Please pay. The charges are 2,800. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to look at your debts. How do you manage your debts? And we have a very good friend in Kampala, Esther Kisiria. I don't know if I pronounced that name correctly. Esther, you will assist me. Esther has been in the banking sector for the last 20 years. She has experience in trade and development. She has worked with the Trade and Development Bank in Nairobi, then Stanbic Bank in Uganda, where she specialized in financial management and the human capital development. I can see she's a friend of ours of HR. Esther currently works as a consultant specializing in financial management, corporate governance, and leadership development. So if you are in Africa, whichever part of Africa or the world you are in, and you want issues to deal with corporate governance, you want issues to do with financial management, she is the person to guide you one-on-one or corporate training. Esther holds an MBA in Finance and Financial Management from Manchester Business School and the University of Wales. Then a Bachelor of Commerce Honors in Accounting major from Makerere University. She is a chartered management accountant from the UK, and she's also a certified coach of International Coaching Federation. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Esther so that she can dish out the insights, the strategies, the perspectives into managing our debt. Money Matters with Esther Kisiria. Esther, you're welcome on board.
Sorry. Checking if I can be heard. Give me a
Yes, you
thumbs
can be
up.
heard loud and clear. We
Yes,
can hear you
you
loud.
had me worried. Good evening, everyone from all over East Africa, our friends from Rwanda, Tanzania, of course, Kenya, and Uganda. I'm very honored and happy to be here sharing with you the knowledge that I've picked up over the years. As Richard has mentioned, I have been in the banking profession for quite some time. Since then, I am what they call a consultant. So today I'm going to share a bit of my knowledge. And as the topic indicated, it is about managing our personal our debt. I'm calling it specifically personal debt because as much as, we borrow and we borrow as individuals. So I hope the screen is clear and you can see the first slide, which is asking you, are you in control of your debt? Right?
Yes, we can
So,
see you. We can see the slide.
yes, that is a very interesting area. And I'm just going to start with a disclaimer. Managing debt, personal debt, is a topic that I can talk about for a whole day, even two, but I'm going to restrict it in 40 minutes or less so that we have some time for a Q&A. That means I'm not going to go very, very deep and analytical and technical. What I'm going to share with you today are general guidelines, and hopefully by the end, you'll have a better sense on how to manage your debt. And I'm assuming most of the people on this call have debt or at least are thinking about taking debt. So my approach will be that we're going to understand how we can use these personal loans if we take them out effectively. And then it's important that we must be able to distinguish between good and bad debt because people take on debt and they do not know what they're getting themselves into. And the worst part is when the debt is totally unnecessary. We borrow for the sake of borrowing. And I have seen this during my career in banking. There was a lot of FOMO. People would see everybody's applying for a loan, so why shouldn't I apply? Since I have the facility, let me use it. So you take on a loan which you really did not need. And then if it's too much or something happens, it can become unsustainable and it really messes up your life. I do financial literacy training and cover a lot of areas. One thing that maybe I think I blame myself and other trainers is we do not spend as much time talking about debt as we should. And I've noted that in the past 2 years, most of the engagements that I'm called to give talks, it's about debt. And when I'm called to give a talk about debt, it is not to educate people what to do if they want to take debt. Usually I'm called in literally as the fire brigade. Things have gone out of control. People have borrowed too much. HR is in a panic. The organization is tired of seeing money lenders in the reception with a police and handcuffs. They've come to collect someone. So one of the outcomes that I'd like to see from this session is you as HR professionals get wiser about signing these loan application forms. Interrogate people a bit more because in all the areas we cover in financial literacy, if someone fails to invest, that becomes their personal problem because they're irresponsible or not focused, they have not invested. If they fail to save, if they fail to manage their expenses, that hits them as an individual. It makes their lives uncomfortable. But the dangerous thing about debt, it involves a third party. It's actually a contract, it's a commitment. And if you decide not to pay your debt, you're actually breaking the law and you can very easily end up in jail. So my advice is let us focus a little bit more on debt and encourage people to think a little harder before they step into taking on debt. Debt management is very, very important because it's one of the things that can make you and build you financially. It enables you to acquire wealth, to acquire financial stability. So debt per se or taking debt is not a bad thing. The challenge is how do you use that debt? If you have financial goals, most of us dream at some point, I'd like to own a house, I'd like to start a business, I'd like to have a nice car, I'd like to have these things. These are our financial goals. Sometimes something like buying a house, As much as we advise save and so save as much as possible to acquire your assets, it's not practical because if I told someone save today until you have enough money to buy the apartment or house you want, it can be daunting because this is telling you to save for the next 20 years. And then remember time value of money. A house that costs, I'm going to use Ugandan values because that's what I can relate to, but roughly let's use the Kenya exchange rate. We assume it's about 30 shillings to a Uganda shilling. 30 Uganda shillings to a Kenyan shilling. So if I say a house costs 300 million, I'm talking about a house that costs 10 million. If it costs 10 million today, believe you me, in 20 years' time, it will cost a lot more. So you'll be like a dog chasing its tail. You'll never quite get the money together to buy that asset. So it makes sense. Let me take a loan today and I pay it off slowly. The other thing is, as in HR, I know that each year we do performance appraisals where we review and see how people have performed. I recommend that as individuals at the start of the year, we should also evaluate how have we done financially. Am I getting wealthier or am I getting poorer? So examine your net worth. How do you do that? You add all the assets, not your trinkets that can't sell to get money out, but the things that you own that have value that you can sell. What's the total worth? And then compare it with how much debt you have. Subtract the debt from the assets. Does it leave you with a higher balance than you had last year? Do you have a higher net worth? Sometimes you might be acquiring more assets, maybe you're taking on debt faster. It's important that you manage your debt because you might end up again like this little rat stuck on a wheel whereby you're trying to get wealthier, but you're taking on too much debt and you're literally in the same place if you're not going backwards. Then there's stress management. If you handle debt well, it can bring you joy, happiness, and from the success, the things you manage to achieve. But if you mishandle it, I've never seen anything that creates stress like a bad debt or an unsustainable debt, where you're kept asleep at night, you're stressed, you're battling, you're hiding from money lenders, you're hiding from relatives and friends you've borrowed from. So it really is a challenge to our mental health if we mishandle debt. So it's important that we keep debt in control. Relationships. How many relationships do we know, marriages, families have broken up because of financial issues that stem from taking on too much debt? How many reputations have we seen destroyed because people have been declared bankrupt? They've ended up in jail because they can't service their debt. So debt management is critical. And lastly, you all want to have a good credit record. In Uganda, we use the Credit Reference Bureau. And I'm sure before you take on a debt, they'll go and check out your balance at the Credit Reference Bureau. In some countries, before you can even stand for political office, you need to get a CRB clearance certificate. If you have a bad credit record, then it becomes a problem. So debt management for these reasons and other reasons is a very, very important thing that we need to figure out how to manage. So my talk mostly is going to be around some practical strategies. How can we keep that in check so that it does not do all the adverse things that I've mentioned? One of the things I'll mention that when I started my banking career very many years ago, it was not easy to get a loan. It was not easy to get a loan at all. It was quite a process. It was a ceremony. You fill in forms, they go, they evaluate it. It could take months, even up to a year before your loan was approved. But heck no. Today, you want to get a loan, you don't even have to go through some evaluation. Sometimes you just go onto your phone, click here, click there, that app, this telco, and you have money. So accessing debt has become so much easier, so much easier. And as you can see in this quotation I put on the slide from Dave Ramsey, it says, debt is a product that has been sold to us with such repetition and intensity that most people believe that you can't live without it. I remember there's a group of youngsters in some organization I was training, and I happened to mention that you can actually live without a debt. You do not have to take a loan. And the guys thought I was mad. They said, absolutely not. Everybody must have a loan. I said, excuse me, I do not have a loan. And they looked at me like I was a creature from another planet. I said, yes, I don't have a loan. Yes, I do take loans from time to time, but when I need them, I take them. When I don't need them, I don't take them. But it's not a given. And this is some of the messaging HR professionals must give to their staff. It is not a must that you take a loan. And also beware for these people who lurk around, especially the ones from from money lenders, unsecured lenders, these mobile apps and whatever. They talk a sweet language when they want you to take a loan. And many times they're very, very pushy, and young people, especially the younger employees that we have, are very susceptible. They get excited and they take out these loans without actually assessing themselves. Do I really need to have this loan? The one thing that we basically need to keep messaging that taking a loan is not a gift. Taking a loan is you're basically committing part of your future income to somebody else. So you're going to work for very many years to pay back this person. All you do is you get the income of the future today, and somebody charges you a price called interest for giving you the money today, and then you're going to stay for a few years to pay off that loan. So it is not a gift. So to mention again, early in my career, I remember when people's loans used to be approved, they would celebrate. They'd celebrate and start, some go out, they have a drink up with their friends. My loan came through, and others even go as far as buying a new car, some get a new partner because now they feel richer. But the reality is, when you take on debt, you have sort of committed your future. And it has actually leaves you in a precarious situation if you don't know what to do. And we also can't always predict the future. So let us treat debt with a bit more caution than it is. Yes, it's more readily available these days, but we also need to be very cautious about how we decide to take debt. I've put up some points here which a person should ask themselves. Purpose of a loan: why am I taking this loan? Is it necessary? Must I take a loan? Are there other ways I can get the money I need to do whatever is causing me to borrow this money? Interrogate your interest rate. Look at it, understand, is it a fixed interest rate? If I'm told you're being lent money at 20%, it means for the whole course of the loan, I'll be paying 20%. Or is it a variable rate, which if the prime lending rate goes up or the CBR goes up, your loan interest rate also goes up, so that you're very aware that my interest rate is not fixed, it can go high. And then do some scenario testing. If it goes up by 2%, can I still cope? If it goes up by 3, 5, and see the limit of how much you can take, and then based on that, make an informed decision. And then the loan amount. Many times we approach credits, banks, or if you work in a bank, you go to the credit department and they tell you, this is how much you qualify to borrow. I remember the excitement every March when people used to look out, when I was still working in banking, people are very excited when they get their pay rises because they say, oh, now I've got more room for borrowing. Yeah, I've got more room for borrowing, because, my salary has gone up. But even if you qualify for a big loan, just take what you need. Like I said, you're mortgaging your future income. So don't do it willy-nilly, think about it. And then the repayment terms. Have you read your agreement? If you decide to take on this loan, what are the terms? Can you, if you fail to pay your installments on time, are there penalties? Can you pay it earlier than if you get more money? Does that attract another penalty? So be aware of the terms that are written into your agreement. And then the monthly installments. If you do that scenario, if interest rates go up, can I still afford to live a decent and comfortable life with the monthly installments I have to make? Because most times people compute their installments based on what's happening today. And they don't take into account that circumstances can change, interest rates can go up, and you end up being squeezed into a very stressful situation because you can't cope to pay with your debt. And then there are fees and charges that come with loans. There's some loans whereby you pay an arrangement fee, and then there are charges that come in, like if you want to change the repayment schedule, you're hit with another charge. Read your agreement and be very clear of what it involves. Then also reflect on your credit record. If you have a bad CRB record, it makes it difficult for you to borrow. So you may not go down that avenue. Lender reputation. Sorry, I'm going a bit fast because I don't want us to lose the strategies, which I think is where the rubble hits the road. If you borrow from someone, make sure that you're borrowing from an institution that's not going to go bust tomorrow. Because like if a bank goes bust, suddenly all the loans are called in. Maybe you took a 10, 8, 15-year loan, and suddenly the bank has gone bust. It's been put under supervision by the central bank, and they want all the lenders to return the money. So make sure that whoever you're borrowing from is a stable institution, they're reputable, they're not guys who do very many crazy things. We hear a lot of crazy things happening in the market. I don't know whether some of the things that happen in Uganda also happen in Kenya, whereby some people talk you into getting a loan when they know you won't be able to service it, with the hope that you will fail and then they'll be able to buy your security cheaply. So do a bit of homework. And then insurance. Is there insurance that comes with a loan? If you fall sick or you're incapacitated in some way, is there some insurance that can sustain your payment so that you don't get into trouble? And then always pay attention to the economic conditions. If your economy is being described as being in a recession or inflation or some negative terms, it speaks something to your ability to lend and to service the loan. So don't treat it like it's, yeah, okay, there's inflation in Kenya, Tanzania, cost of living has gone high. They're saying the exchange rate, the currency has weakened, but you think it does not touch you. So guys, let's be a little smarter when we're getting ready to take debt or talking to people who work with us as HR to guide them and make sure they don't make the wrong decision. There's a lot of excitement around debt. Some people can't internalize that it's not free money. This is your money, but being given to you early at a fee. You're going to pay interest and it may cause you some sleepless nights. So I've alluded to this. Some debts we take are good, some debts are bad. So as a general rule, I tend to tell people that if you take a debt and you pay it for some time, after you pay that debt, you know that you'll be left with an asset. You'll be left with a house. You'll be left with a degree. You'll have your business running. You've bought a car that can help you in your work, or you've bought a matatu or an Uber, which can generate some income for you, or you've released equity from a property you already have, a house you've already paid off, and use that money to acquire another asset. A good debt always is an investment because it leaves you with something. So it increases your net worth or it enables you to generate more money in the future. Bad debt is that one. You'll pay it, you'll suffer to pay it. And after it's done, you have nothing left to show it. Many times we use like credit cards to pay for dinners and all that. But once the bill comes, you won't even remember those sweet meals and so many glasses of wine and bottles of beer you drank with your friends. You get very angry. Moneylender loans, from my experience, is people tend to take these loans when they have an emergency. Usually somebody's sick, school fees is late or something. So you take this loan. You pay, but technically you do not have an asset to point out that I took this loan and that is what I got out of it. We all want cars. If you can afford it, by all means, go for the latest Mercedes G-Wagon, go for the Land Cruiser, go for whatever. But do not take out a loan to buy a car which you can barely afford even to fuel just to keep up appearances. Just to keep up appearances. Says everyone in my department has changed their car this year, therefore I must also take out a loan. So sometimes it's better to err on the side of caution. Yes, we need a car to get from work. We also want to buy a car that we feel proud of and let it be an affordable car. Not one will be driving a fancy car, but we are eating, I don't know, in Kenya they call it, it's a good dish, I suppose, but in Uganda, if you can't afford to buy any good protein, you end up buying mukene, or in Kenya, they call it omena or whatever, because you can no longer afford a proper fish or chicken or beef. So don't take
Esther, you have disappeared.
hear me now?
Yeah, you're picking up.
Okay, yeah, it's my audio. It goes funny. So, all right. Yeah, so personal loans, most of us have salary facilities at work whereby your employer guarantees your salary, but what do we use them for? We use them to go to holiday. Everyone in my department is going to Dubai, or at Christmas, they're going to Mombasa, or I want to have a first-rate wedding, and you take out a loan. Really, one day I asked people, what asset will you have? And then people said, I get a wife. And I said, and when you divorce her, do you go back and tell her, pay back the money I borrowed? So let us be a bit more judicious. And the thing I fear the most these days are these instant quick loan that we're getting from apps. There's a proliferation of them in Uganda. Whenever you go to Google Store or to Apple or whatever, you just see another app coming up. And young people, because they're not very aware of what taking debt means, they just think it's free money. But these people have a way of tracking you and they will find you and they can make your life miserable. So let us be aware of when we're taking good or bad debt. Another thing that can help us a little bit, especially when we're talking to the people we lead as HR, is what criteria, the criteria that will help you to distinguish good debt or bad debt. Good debt, for purpose, it's usually looking for investing into a future, building your wealth, and preparing for the future. Bad debt, it's instant gratification. I've talked about holidays to Mombasa, Dubai, having a fancy party, kitchen mending, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not the right reason. And then interest rates for good debt are lower because you will borrow from reputable institutions. You'll go to a bank, you'll go to, even if you go to an MFI, but on bad debt and money lenders, the other day I had someone whose land was about to be grabbed here in Uganda because he had taken a loan of about 11 million. It was actually a news item. And he said he borrowed money at 11%. My eyes popped out of my head. I said 11% per month. For the bankers of you who are on this webinar, you know what 11% per month means. It is basically an unsustainable debt, because 11% times 12 is 132%, I think. So it means that you're going to pay back more money than you ever borrowed. And this is in a 1-year period. So you need to ask yourself if the interest rate is too high. And lenders are smart these days. They tell you, oh, it's just 5% per month. But 5% per month means 60% per annum. Would you be taking that loan? If you knew the interest is 60%, we make a lot of noise about bank loans, which are at 20, 24, 22. We think they're very, very crazy. So also the financial impact. When you borrow a good debt, you're able to repay it and you build a good track record, which makes it easier for you to take debt in the future. When you want to borrow, your credit reference bureau record is very good. But bad debt, most likely you're likely to default, and all sorts of crazy things will happen that will damage your credit record. So please, please, always talk people through before you sign on to those forms, recommending them for getting a personal loan. Okay, some of the other tips that can help us avoid getting bad debt is to live within our means and to use budgets to manage our income. One of the things that I find a bit frustrating is, especially in this age of social media, TikTok, YouTube, everybody wants to live larger than they can actually afford. Not everybody, most people. Because people are always taking photos and they share. Sometimes I get quite amused, like if I go out with my children, maybe with their friends, and they serve the food, the first thing they do is they take a picture of their food and they send it. And I say, can't you just eat without telling people what you've eaten? Can't you just eat without telling people in the restaurant? There's this culture of everything must be shared. And what happens is people tend to project an image that they're living a much better life and richer life than they're leading. So this drives other people to borrow, so to kind of keep up with the Joneses. So let's learn to be true to ourselves. Let's live within our means. Have a budget. A budget, people hate it. But I ask anyone here who works for an organization that will start to operate. Let's imagine your financial year has just started and you don't have a budget already in place. You can't do it at work. Every institution, by the time they close off the year, December or whichever time, if it's government, June, the budget for the following year is ready and is being approved. Or, in Kenya's case, the budget was not approved. That's a story for another day. Yeah, but you must have a budget. So why is it that in our personal lives, we think we can sail through without having a plan? A budget is basically just a financial plan on how you're going to use your income. So let us get that discipline, because it will save us many instances when we are driven to take on debt. Because many times we mishandle our money, we have financial strain, and we use debt to bridge that gap caused by financial irresponsibility. And then also avoid, there's certain things you don't need to use credit to buy. If you want to buy a new phone, unless your phone was snatched or felt or was stepped on, or it's gone off, it's no longer supported, really, you have time to say, I will replace my phone in December this year. This is how much money I must set aside. Many times people avoid saving to purchase small items. Big items like houses, you can take credit, but small items, yeah? Buy a pair of shoes on credit. Really? You can save and say, I'll save my salary over the next 3 months, or when I get my bonus, I will revamp my wardrobe. Certain things we should not be using debt credit, because that will clearly be bad debt. Then credit card. Many times in Uganda, we don't use credit cards as much as we do in Kenya, but I used to live in Kenya for some time, and I got quite good at using my credit card. I'd use it to do my grocery shopping, through the month. But as soon as I get paid, I'd clear my balance to zero. So that it ended up that for years and years, all the credit card company got from me, because I think you're given up to, 6 days. If you manage to clear your balance after the end of the month, they will not charge you interest. So I used to pay off. So all I used to pay was the annual card fee. But I was very, very smart. I was just using the card to shop. And because I would get my salary, invest it if I had whatever, then I clear my credit card, then invest the rest. So you can play around with credit so that by paying off your balances and not leaving them to grow and grow and grow, and then you get another card to pay off this one, that is really putting yourself in a precarious financial situation. Then also consider the long-term impact, because many times you take a loan when the economy is doing well, you've got a job, everything is going on swimmingly. Heaven forbid you wake up one day and your job disappeared. We've had some really shocking developments in Uganda. Kenya, I think you have a Kenya National Roads Authority. We have an equivalent called Uganda National Roads Authority, UNRA. The government went through a rationalization whereby it started merging some of these units, taking them back to their mother ministries. So people were aware this was going to happen, but some continued borrowing, others didn't. But they just decided one day, okay, UNRA is closed today, the 30th of December, so everybody is jobless, and we're not guaranteeing anyone a job. And the salary you receive for December, that's your last salary. So what next? So that means that when you're borrowing, also think about all the scenarios. What if I lose my job? What if this happens? Do a bit of what if analysis before you take on long-term debt, especially for things like mortgages, because mortgages, you're going to pay for a number of years, right? And if you get into financial trouble, you may end up losing the property, and even the money you have been paying might also disappear. So one of the ways to guard against being always forced to take bad debt or ending into crisis is building an emergency fund. An emergency fund, we talk about it ad nauseum in financial literacy training. And basically what they tell you, save money that can support you for at least a minimum, we say 6 months. Recently, I was talking to an organization where they've laid off a quarter of their staff, and I asked them, do you have an emergency fund? If you have an emergency fund, at least make sure it can take you for some period of time. So I talked them through, if you have saving, let's say a month you live on 2 million shillings net, after tax and NSSF, everything has gone off. So you check in your savings on emergency fund, you have 10 million. So that basically means you have 5 survival months based on that emergency fund. So try to build some money, saying that if I am in a situation where I'm living on bare bones, how much money do I need to survive? I need X amount of money. So let me build money that can take me through 6 months, because that is sufficient time to help you reorganize and get back on your feet financially. So quickly, let me take you through some strategies of managing your debt. You need to assess your debt, understand everything that is there, have a debt repayment strategy, prioritize always to pay off your high interest debt, and also include it in your budget. I've just talked about budgeting, and also see how you can generate more income so that you have more money to pay off your debt faster. And I've just talked about the emergency fund. I'll go through each a little slower, but in a way that you can see. One thing, it's important to track your debt. Sometimes know how much debt you have. Evaluate. I've got money lender, I've got SACCO, I've got a Chama loan, I've got this loan. This is how much money, this is the total interest, and these are the dates I pay. So you have an understanding of your debt. And then this will help you to manage that, to keep on top of paying your debt in a way that's comfortable. And then also work out how much of this debt is taken, what percentage of my income of my take home is the debt taking. Ideally, should not be more than 40%. If it's more than 40%, you're likely to get into unsustainable debt. So also check on your bank statement. Sometimes we just assume the financial institution, the bank, the whatever knows what they're doing. Sometimes you're debited twice. Sometimes something happens. So get into a habit of looking at that statement. You have a repayment schedule. Keep your own independent record saying, according to my records, this is how much my outstanding debt should be. Sometimes you go to check and it's much higher. So you go and take it up. Don't wait until you think you finish paying the loan. And according to the bank, you're not even halfway through. So let us own and take responsibility for tracking our loans. I've given an example of a little tracker. Then adopt a strategy. Have a plan. How can I pay off this loan? Yes, you have a repayment plan that was given to you when you took out the debt, but you can come up with a plan of how you can pay off the debt faster, pay more than actually what's on the repayment schedule. That's if the terms of your agreement allow you to do that. The common two strategies are called the snowball method. As you can see a picture, I have a small snowball and a bigger until you have a giant. What you do is I have all these debts. I have 4 loans, which is the smallest. Let me put extra money so I pay off the smallest. Once that one is cleared, then do go for the next one like that. The fact that you are eliminating this debt, well, it motivates you psychologically. You don't feel as trapped as every time you look at your bank statement, there are 4 loans being cleared. And then the avalanche is the method whereby you say this is the most expensive debt. This debt from the MDI or from the moneylender or the moneylender, sometimes they don't even go through the bank. It's too high. This is why I'm paying 10%, 15% per month. Try to find a way to get some extra money. If you have any extra money laying anywhere, or sell off something so that you clear that high interest debt as quickly as possible so that it decreases the pressure you're going through. So it's very, very important that over and above this repayment plan that was given to you, the repayment schedule, you also have your own strategy. What more can I do to speed up paying off this debt? And for heaven's sake, don't pay off the debt in a hurry because you are trying to get ready to take the next debt. Yeah. Let us be a bit more judicious in how we use debt. Then prioritize, like I've mentioned, the high interest rate, things like credit card debt. If you can say, okay, this is consistently a balance I failed to clear. Let me go to my SACCO. I'll talk to them. I borrow money, pay off the credit card person, because SACCO loans, they tend to be lower rates and they tend to be gentler in terms of repaying. So the point here is also, if you have a bit of extra money and you can pay more than the installment that is in your loan agreement, then do that. Do that, because what you're trying to do is to retire the debt. Prolonging the life of the debt does not work in your favor, because all it does, it means you're going to pay more interest. Then plan. I've talked about this plan, a budget. Create a budget and see what proportion of your salary you're going to put into debt. When we're training people in financial literacy, we talk about needs, wants, and savings. Yeah, savings, which is pay yourself, and debt repayment. But for me, I have an extra one. In fact, it's the top of the list. It's called obligations. Obligation, that means debt repayments and insurance. Those are the first things that you should budget for. Then you go into your needs, your wants. Savings is also a very important one. Maybe you should actually go after obligations, savings, the needs, and wants last. Have a plan around that, but be a bit structured in how you spend your money. And also identify, we are overspending on this. We have 2 cars, maybe let's let go of one, park one, or put it in Uber so you can get some extra money and direct it to paying off the loan quicker than initially was given in your schedule. And then also try to find ways to earn income. In Kenya, use the word hustle, side hustle. In Uganda, it's called kuidiba. You know, you kind of try and find odd jobs here and there where you can get money, extra money, and put it towards paying off your debt. If you have things which are sitting idle, most of us have clutter in our house, things that we can sell, generate cash, and don't use that cash to go and do more shopping. Use it towards clearing debt. March is coming along for guys working in financial institutions, bonuses around the corner. Why don't you use some of that bonus, not all of it, to retire some of your debt? Generally, let's also avoid when we get a pay increase in March, if we qualify for one, not to engage in what we call lifestyle creeping or lifestyle inflation, whereby now things you couldn't afford because I've got a pay increase, I'm going to live a more expensive life. Use this extra income towards retiring your debt. And finally, build an emergency fund. There is nothing that has dragged many people into poverty and debt, financial distress as crisis. Crises are a fact of life. We'll get unexpected bills, we get tragedies, we get bereavements, we lose jobs, our homes. You remember the guys in Kenya, remember the guys where they had that, what was it, the dam that broke and took away people's houses and killed a lot of people. Kenya, I remember 2 years ago, you were screaming about cost of living. All these, the way to manage them is not always to go and take off a loan to compensate, because like we're saying, you're just spending your future income in advance. If you have an emergency fund, it can help you to sail through these challenging situations. Those are the 6 strategies I'll talk about. But before I leave, I want to caution you about 2 things. The first thing is guarantee. Please don't act as a guarantee, because guaranteeing somebody's loan comes with consequences. You are literally, you see, like this guy, he wants to borrow a car, he's your friend, you go and you tell the dealer, because he knows you've got good credit, good reputation, you tell him, I guarantee the loan. If this character A disappears, who does the creditor come for? He comes for you. And it is you now who will end up with legal liability, you get stressed, the friendship breaks, and also you now, your CRB record might be impacted if you recorded this loan. And then you have a financial burden you had never foreseen. You are stressed, mental health issues. So guys, think long and hard before you guarantee somebody's loan, right? And then finally, debt is a fantastic tool to build wealth. Like I've mentioned, you can use it to acquire assets that will increase your net worth. But before you take that loan, ask yourself, what is the expected return I'll get from that asset? For example, if you're running a business, if your business is making profits at 15% per annum and you're taking a loan of 26 per annum, really, does that really make sense? You're going to pay 26% interest on a business land or a property that can't give you a higher return than a 10, 15%. Yeah. And then is the asset you are going to put the borrowed money and invest the borrowed money, will it give you enough cash flow to be able to service that loan? Or it will mean squeezing a bit of your salary to sustain the debt payments. Yeah. And in case things don't work out the way that you think they will, you have a plan B. Have you done your scenarios and said, in case this doesn't work, in case I don't get a tenant in the house immediately, I can get money from here to keep on servicing the loan? And also look at your source. I've talked about that. But basically, when you are taking on debt, ideally it should be aligned to your goals, your financial goals. But I want to work for 10 years, within which time I must have 5 years, I must have bought a car, within 15 years, I must have my own house, that sort of thing. So your borrowing must align to that. So a quotation I have here at the end is smart borrowing combined with smart investing is the key to financial success. So if you use debt wisely, it's a fantastic tool. If you use it badly, it can become a nightmare or even worse. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have to say to you. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can appreciate Esther for that enthusiastic, informative, inspiring, and very insightful presentation. I am sure you have picked something that will trigger some thought process on how to manage your debt. And we have been told you can use debt to become better, or you can use debt to dig yourself into 6 feet under. Esther, now this is a question I want to ask you. There is this question, is it wise for one to go for a loan, to refinance a loan? Is it a wise thing?
Can I answer you straight away, Richard?
I am asking.
Yes, I'm saying, can I answer? Can I answer?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, yes, it can be wise, especially if by refinancing the loan, you are going to get better terms. For example, if you've got a loan whereby the installments are very hefty and really draining, taking a substantial portion of your paycheck, and you manage to get somebody who'll give you the loan for a longer period, which will reduce your installments, or even at a lower interest rate, by all means, refinance. refinance. But it doesn't make sense to refinance if you're going to get better terms. The whole purpose of refinancing is improving your situation. I think, I hope I've given you a good answer for that.
Yes. If the bottom line, I think from what you've said is if they are giving you better terms to caution yourself against the initial loan. Now, there is an anonymous question, why most of the banks in East Africa always goes for higher interest rates and calculations are always not understandable?
Okay, one of the things that I'll tell you, in East Africa, at least I talk more about Uganda, but I also know in Kenya, but okay, globally, the way interest rates are determined, they are a reflection on how risky the lender perceives you. If the lender says, there are two reasons, they look at the perception that this person is very high risk, even if they're fully secured, they think that, okay, because you're very high risk, so we charge you higher interest. So in case this loan, this guy fails to repay, we've already made a bit of good money from them. The other thing is also the cost of funds. Our institutions, where they get money, it might be expensive for them. So they have to cover that cost of funds, their own borrowing, and then pass it on, then make a little profit on it. So the interest rates will be high. The other thing is most of us tend to take short-term loans, and many of these loans are unsecured. As for those instant access apps, I have no words. What happens is you're given a very high interest rate because the perception is it's very risky. That's why when you're seen as a good client and the bank trusts you, these big companies and institutions, when you go, they get lower rates. They get what they call the prime lending rate sometimes because the lender is very comfortable that they will be able to get their money back. So yeah. So it is the perception of risk, and it's also the cost of funds, also the type of loan. Most times I've noticed that when you take loans that for a longer repayment period, sometimes the interest rate gets higher. Or ideally, it should be lower. Like if you're paying the interest rate for a mortgage of 15 years should be actually lower than an interest rate for an unsecured loan for let's say 6 months, a year or two. But here in Uganda, sometimes I get shocked. Sometimes the longer the loan, the higher the interest rate. And I say, Lord, why are people even still borrowing? Why are people still borrowing at these rates? What scares me is people never interrogate what an interest rate means. You know, because people say this loan is very cheap because it's just 2%. In fact, recently we had our government, there was a decision, I think, I don't know whether it was passed in Parliament, that moneylender interest rates charged for loans should be capped at 2.8% per annum. And people clapped and said, yeah, that is very cheap. I said, well, you do the calculation, 2.8 times 12, it's still 30 something. What business are you going to do where you make a profit after paying your taxes, your expenses and salaries, everything, and you remain with enough money to service a loan at 33%? People don't ask themselves, but it's just excitement of getting this money that tends to sweep away most people. Yes.
Thank you very much, Esther.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Esther. Is this question? Hi, Esther. Great presentation. Can you advise one to take a loan and buy land which does not give cash flow now, but has potential to appreciate over time?
I would advise a person to buy land. In Uganda, we have nicknamed it land banking, whereby you buy land with the expectation that it will gain value over time. I have to put that disclaimer, that expectation, there's no guarantee. Actually, something bad can happen in the area that actually the land loses value. That only makes sense that you're taking a loan you're going to pay without getting any cash flow from the land because you have a salary, you have another source of cash flow which will service this loan. And that will sustain you until you reach a point where you feel the land has gained the value at which I am going to now dispose of it. So to take a land loan whereby you don't have immediate cash flow, you must have a salary or some other form of income to service the loan. It's crazy to take a loan when you're not clear where you're going to get the funds to service that loan. But also don't buy land assuming it always goes up. Yes, it goes up, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. sometimes something happens and even the land value goes down. So prepare for all scenarios.
Very good. What are the options when one is faced with legal threats to be declared bankrupt due to non-payment of debt after the collateral has been liquidated, but amount was not adequate to settle the debts?
Oh, now I am not a lawyer, I am a retired banker, but I can tell you this much. One of the most important things that a person must avoid is if you are struggling to pay a debt and you reach a point where you can no longer service that loan, it's incumbent on you to look for a buyer who can give you the value of money that will enable you to settle your loan in full. Most times people play hide and seek, they play guessing games, we take ourselves in dream world and denial until the bank actually sells the property for us. Remember, for them, the bank, all they want back is their money. But sometimes, because maybe it's a fire sale, they're selling quickly, they cannot get all their money back. Some fees, the guys, the bailiffs, the what still need to be paid, it still comes back on you. So it's very, very important when you're taking a loan and you're getting into difficulty. The first thing, keep channels of communication open. Talk to your lender. Tell them, I'm getting challenge A, B, C, and D. See whether you can renegotiate terms. If you see renegotiation has its limit, then start looking for solutions. Take it upon yourself to look for a buyer yourself, and then come back to the bank and said, I've got somebody who's going to take this property off my hands, and I'll be able to settle your loan. And maybe you'll be left with a little thing, a little bit of money or nothing. But I, as much as possible, encourage people to avoid situations where the realization of security is purely done by the bank. They sell and they get their what they want, or even less, because there's nothing you can do. You signed on the loan agreement. So it's challenging. So yeah, when your loan is in trouble, be the first person to try and get it sorted out. Find options. Don't play hide and seek. It doesn't do you any good in the long run. Yes, and they can't charge. You can't sue them. You can't sue them because you gave them security, they sold it, they didn't get all their money, so they still need the rest. They come back to you. And if they fail, they throw you into, in Kenya, I don't know, they take you to committee. Here, we can put you in Lizira prison, you know, bad data. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much, Esther. Steph Ouma Nabwire is asking, could you recommend students in East Africa to go for loan at university level?
Now I'm going to qualify this. One of the things that I know about student loans, you used to have HELB. I don't know what it has come in Kenya. I don't know what we have in Uganda, whereby students can get loans through some government affiliated entity to the Ministry of Education. Those are the kind of loans I'd expect a student to take, because from what I've heard from my friends in Kenya, they're really not as strict if you default, because they have to be realistic. Most times when our youngsters graduate, they tarmac for some time. Tarmac means you walk around looking for a job for some time. So you may not be able to service to pay back the student loan. The craziest thing is to go to a bank, because when banks are lending money, they lend money against your cash flow. You have to indicate that you have the means to pay back that money. If you're a student and you're not working, unless daddy and mommy step in and they say, or uncle or grandpa say, we are the ones signing for this loan and we'll service it, chances are banks will even chase you out of the door because they know you don't have the means to pay it. So when a student must take a loan, either try and get the government ones from the bodies that they provide for us. As much as possible, avoid commercial loans. Money lender, it's a killer, because you have no means. And don't borrow money unless you have a fairly good idea of where you'll get the money to repay it. Loans is one thing that doesn't work well with hope. I hope one day, hope and loans are not friends. Loans are friends with certainty. This is where I expect and I know I can get the money. So please don't take a loan just relying on hope. That one will not work. I'm
Thank
sorry
you very
I'm
much.
being a bit candid, but having worked in banking for over 20 years, I've seen a lot of people who started out very, very well, doing very well financially. They got a loan that basically sunk them. Some of them never recovered. So if there's one thing that I have a healthy respect for of all the areas of finance, it's debt. And I wish we can preach that message more, telling people, be cautious. Just because it's easier to access it, don't take it, because the implications when things go wrong can be bad. If you have a good plan that you know the debt will boost your wealth and give you more assets and give you more financial security, go for it. But don't go for it just because all my friends are borrowing at work, so I'm also going to take a loan. That's not the thing. This is not a formal thing, fear of missing out. Debts aren't formal. It's very, very much an individual thing. That's why we call it a personal debt. It's not a group debt.
Thank you very much, Esther. I don't know if you have done research to this question that is coming next. Why Kenya has attracted many banks than other countries in East Africa?
Okay, I've not done research, but I can answer that off the top of my head. Kenya is a bigger economy. It's the biggest economy in East Africa. Of course, Tanzania is hot on your heels. You still have the big boys. If DRC gets sorted out, they might come. Uganda, we also have our oil on the way. We might also expand. But right now, Kenya has been the biggest economy in our region for a long time, and it attracts money. A good economy is a money magnet. Small economies, like Rwanda is a very beautiful economy. It's doing a lot of amazing things, but the reality, it is still a relatively small economy if you compare it to Kenya. I hope that answers you generally.
Yeah, even me, I've just seen what you have said. It's quite correct. The other question, there's this thing which is very common in Nairobi. I'm sure it is common in Kampala, where 5 in the evening, people bend to buy that shoes, that dress, impulse buy. How can people stop this habit of impulse buy?
Oh, that one. I don't know what to tell you. But let me tell you, let me use my personal experience. Yeah. I used to be the greatest impulse shopper. And some of my colleagues, I've seen Evelyn Pross and a few people were on this call earlier. But I learned to discipline myself. One day we had somebody who came to train us, and they gave us a small lesson saying, when you walk out with, let's say in Uganda, it's, let me use a figure. In Kenya, let's say if you walk out with 5,000 shillings, which is about 150,000 shillings, today you walk out of the house. You come back in the evening and you are left with 500 Kenya shillings or 50 Uganda shillings. Do you know where that money went? Yeah. You don't know where. So the person advised us that keep a record of where you spend money. So I started recording how my money was going. I'm sitting in a traffic jam, the person of grapes comes, I buy grapes. Hankies, oh, I said, I forgot to carry a hanky today, I buy a hanky. I walk onto the street, I see a magazine, I pick it up. And you keep on picking up all sorts of things which you don't actually need, which, as somebody said in the chat, you did not plan for. So I then learned to have to live on a budget. One of the things is I know I'm an impulsive shopper, so I restrict myself how much money I have for impulse shopping in a given week. And that's the only money I'll have in my bag. I try to avoid walking around with a debit card or anything, so that by the time I decide to part with that 10,000 to buy that magazine, I just know now I have 40,000 to take me through to Saturday. So it is self-discipline. It is self-discipline. I'm what they call, I lived in Nairobi, full disclosure, I lived in Nairobi for about 8 years. And when I was very stressed, I was doing a relatively stressful job in a regional financial institution. What I used to do at lunchtime, our offices were at Community, that NSSF building. I used to drive to Yaya Center every day at lunchtime. And I just walk around. I just felt good being amongst the atmosphere. I'd walk into Chandarana, I'd go to which shop, I'd go to what shop. I just feel good. But because I knew my habits, I didn't have money, I didn't have cash. If I saw something that I really liked, I'd make a mental note to come back for it on Saturday. So that was the retail therapy I used to practice. It's very tempting to look at these guys on the roadside selling socks, shoes, and all sorts of things. But if you don't have money, all you can do is admire. all you can do is admire. And if you really like it, you say, maybe I'll come back tomorrow. By good chance, that person might be there. They may not be there. So that chance, waste money, has gone. So discipline, discipline, discipline. Retail therapy is real. Me, when I'm very stressed, I like going shopping. But the only way I discipline myself when I go shopping, I leave all the shopping equipment, which is cash and cards, at home. So all I can do is admire. So I hope that helps somebody. It's worked for me, I hope. And also recording. When I go out with money, at the end of the day, my kids see me. These days, they're trying to get me on apps, but I'm at the generation that still likes pen and paper. I've got a notebook and I pay, even if I tipped the guy in that parking, a newspaper I bought, took shoe for repair. At the end of the day, I list down everything I have spent money on. So I know where my money has gone. Because I used to come back with an empty purse and I am clueless. Where did the money go? Then I remember, hey, that mango's person. In fact, he didn't even give me change. Yeah, because it was that carelessness. And I've tried to teach that habit to my children, especially my older daughter when she went to university. She did that. It helped her to learn how to track her money. Well, when you do it for some time, you now learn your spending habits. Because I write down, sometimes it's tedious, but I do it on a daily basis so that I know that this is where my money goes. But we used to have a joke with my colleagues, Evelyn and Pross, who were on the call, that you have a very fat bank account, but by the end of the month, it's a Uganda shilling account, which should be counting the balance in thousands of shillings. Suddenly, you are single digit, like 2,000, 3,000. If you drop the slip from the ATM, someone can actually mistake it for a dollar account. You have $3,000. Yet the reality is you're down to the last 3,000 shillings. So it became a joke amongst us that now my account is counting in dollars, which meant I am broke. So a lot of discipline is important for us to learn how to manage our money. It's self-discipline. And many people tell me, Esther, tell me the magic tricks for this magic tricks. I say, if you're looking for magic, you're looking at the wrong person. I don't teach magic, I teach reality. Sometimes the reality is hard, it is painful, but don't say, somebody said tips, give me some wonderful short tips, silver bullet that can switch my finances. I said, takes discipline, commitment, you'll get there. It's not easy. Good things are never easy. They're hard, but when you learn how to do them, these good habits, they'll transform your life financially. Okay, Richard.
Thank you very much. There's an interesting one. There's an interesting one coming your way by Tracy. Is money management also spiritual? I don't know what perspective you take on that, but take it.
Okay, now I'm also, Tracy, please don't take offense. I'll confess, I'm a very religious person. I'm a relatively religious person, though COVID messed up with my church-going habits. It's never gone back to being that good. But I believe in God and I believe in God intervention. There are certain things that people do and spend their money, and I am convinced the devil had possessed them. Because a person in a rational mind cannot do that. So yes, indeed, some of the financial decisions and things that we do are actually devil inspired. Because for you to take a big loan to go and buy a car, no, I'll tell you like the worst one. I know like a kid who used to go and borrow money to go and show off, take off his friends for drinks. And then he was not buying food at home, and he had a young wife and cheating the wife that the bank has problems. They've not been paying my salary for X number of months because he was just using the money to show off, So until one day the wife walked into the office, demanded to see the MD after making a lot of noise. She said, why have you stopped paying my salary? My husband's salary has not been paid for 6 months. They could not show him his payslips, but they called the man and said, have you not been paid your salary? That I've been paying. So what is it that you're telling your life? Who else could have made that man to behave like that? Only the devil could. So yes, there's a spiritual dimension to some of our financial behavior.
All right, Esther. All right. What is this question I wanted to ask and it has disappeared? The technology, is there technology that one can use like an app to manage their finances? Do we have?
Yes. Oh yes, there are a lot of apps. This time, because of trying to cover quite a bit in time, I usually post apps, the kind of apps that you can use. But just go to Google app to Google. What do they call it? Google Store these days. You know, I'm getting my youngsters to do a lot of my work for VC. We paid school fees. So we are trying to get a return. If you go to App Store, if you're using an Apple phone or Google Play Store, you are going to get a lot of apps. There's even one I mentioned in my presentation. Let me just try and see, peep quickly on how you track your debt. There is one, there are budgeting apps that you can use, like Mint, YNAB, or if you're not very agile with apps, just use a spreadsheet. But YNAB is a very good, and Mint, a very good apps for whatever. There's one that my daughter told me, I've forgotten the name. She's put it on my phone and tried to encourage me, but me being analog, I'm still happy with my notebook and spreadsheets. I put things in the book, transfer to spreadsheet. So poor girl, I've convinced her that this year I'll start using the app and move away from the spreadsheet. But they are apps. They are apps. Just go and, go through your phone. If you go to Google Store or App Store, these days I'm confused. I don't even know which one I'm talking about. Yeah, you will be able to get these apps.
Thank you, Esther. In Africa, the issue of going for therapy is looked suspiciously.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue of going for financial therapy is even more looked at suspiciously. How do you decide that now I really need financial therapy? People really fear going to probably a financial analyst. How can you assist a person who has difficulties in?
Let me tell you, my dream. Sorry, Richard, to interrupt. There is a business I am desperate and dying to set up. If only I could figure out how to go about it. I'm sharing it here. Maybe someone has beaten me to it. It's debt counseling. We have counselors. I think for the longest possible time, going for counseling, seeing a therapist, in Africa, madness is a taboo. Insanity is a taboo. So the moment you say, I'm going to see my psychologist, my therapist, or counselor, people would say, Bambi, that's a Luganda word of, dear, she's run mad or he has run mad. Yeah. But now I think we've got past that. We've realized that we live in a higher paced world compared to our parents and grandparents. So therapy is a necessity. So what some organizations, I will not mention one that I work with. I work with them on their financial wellness program, whereby I do these sessions. I talk about all sorts of things. Debt is a frequent one these days, but I also have one-on-one coaching sessions. Look for a financial coach, and that's between you and them. Because if you don't want other people to know, you can search silently, go to a coach. This is a person, they may not have the answers, but they will help you to think. Because what usually happens when you have a lot of stress, pressure, in financial distress, even your brain locks, you can't think. But getting a coach who's more of a sounding board to kind of guide your thinking may help to unlock you and you find solutions which you thought weren't there. So I encourage people, it is hard. It is very, very hard for us to adapt this. But in my experience, some employers provide it. In fact, more and more employers, especially financial institutions, because of pressures, they are providing counseling services. But specifically, I want to do this thing called debt counseling, because I've seen the number of people who are being sent to me as a coach to talk to them through their debts, and it's frightening. I think we should make it a professional service. In South Africa, I know they actually have a course for it, and that's my frustration. The only courses I find are in the UK, in South Africa, and the economies are quite different from our East African economies. So that is one thing. If anybody knows, I beg you, please, please give me a heads up where I can get training as a debt counselor, because debt is really hard on us. It's hard on us and even on our children, especially the ones who are living, I call it the show-off, see-me age of everything, selfie on Instagram, selfie. I just look at these kids and said, can't we just live, savor, enjoy the moment for you? You don't have to go showing all your friends, my life is so good. You can live and just enjoy it for you. You don't have to post. but I come from a different time than the Gen Zs and millennials. I'm definitely not one of them.
Thank you so much. It has been a wonderful discussion, Esther. You have really nailed a lot of things that people will use in developing their ways of managing debt. Debt is a good thing if you are able to be disciplined, have the strategies of managing debt. Debt is bad if you do not have a reason why you're taking debt. As you prepare for your parting shots, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget that on let me see the date. On the 20th of February 2025, we will have Protection of Wages, Navigating Legal Landmines by Peter Kinyanjui, and it is 2,800. You can register. It will be from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. The venue will be on Zoom. And what else? Don't forget to register for Cohort 1 Growth Grit Mentorship Program. It will cost 22,000 for the early bird offer. And I've already told you what to expect in the mentorship. You will have your moderator of choice, that is Grace Nzula, and Anne Wamonje being your trainers. Take this chance and become a very powerful HR person. My name is Richard J. Magoma. I am an interview preparation trainer and public speaking trainer as well. It has been a pleasure having you here, creating time to come and listen. And as Grace likes saying, we demystify issues related to finance and professional development. I am sure Esther has done a wonderful job in demystifying the role of debt in our finances. Esther, what is your parting shot?
Richard, maybe before Esther gives us her parting shot, I've seen someone mentioning about Shylock twice. Maybe she can touch on that as well.
Oh, that is okay. Yeah, Shylock. Should I go to the bank or should I go to a Shylock?
Shylock, in Kenya, maybe you still have unregulated Shylocks. In Uganda, we made them, I think in 2016, we legitimized them. So now we call them money lenders. And money lenders, they have rules that govern. There's even a body that, you can go and report to them if they're misbehaving, though very few people, I suppose, go to them. My advice, remember the good and bad debt? Shylock is definitely bad debt. My advice is stay away. Stay away. If you're completely stuck and you're going to a Shylock, go in with your eyes wide open. Because the thing about Shylock, remember like Shylock in The Merchant of Venice? He did not want the guy to pay the debt because he wanted his arm. He wanted to chop off his arm. Shylocks basically lend you. You think they're helping you, but for them, their interest is in grabbing whatever security that you've given them. So when you go to a Shylock, go with very aware that chances are I'm going to lose the security that I've pledged. And if anything, they will continue chasing me because they charge interest at very ridiculous rates. They will not let you go. So Shylocks, if possible, avoid them because it's a guaranteed way to lose your asset and to get yourself into a lot of mental stress and financial distress. I hope I've answered you about the Shylock.
Thank you so much, Esther. We know that probably somebody could want to get a financial advisor from a different land so that they are not exposed to somebody who knows them. Now, supposing somebody wants to get in touch with you, do you allow some people to get you? Can you be able to leave an email or number where people can get in touch with you in case they want your help, which everybody wants actually?
Okay, I'm typing my email into the chat. I don't know how that post. No, that didn't work. Okay, I'm trying to get my email into the chat. Alternative, if you want to get hold of me, you have Grace's email, you have Grace's number, her WhatsApp. She'll give you my WhatsApp number. But I do also have, for people in Kenya, believe it or not, I do have a Kenyan number. If I can find it here quickly, I'll just read it out. My number in Kenya is 0715 588 707. It's a Kenyan number, plus 254 715 588 707. If you want to get me on email, it is Kasiria, which is my first name. You can see it up there on my name, kasiria.esther@gmail.com, all lowercase. I'll be happy to hear from you, and if I can help, indeed I shall. Thank you so much. And my parting shots, if I can go to them, Richard, I'd like to thank Atara Solutions for giving me this opportunity to talk about a topic, which, as you can clearly see, I'm very, very passionate about, because I've seen it build people's lives. I've seen it destroy people's lives. So I'd like you, everyone on this call and people we associate with, to be on the winning side of debt. It is a fantastic tool as long as you know what to do with it. What you need to do is deal with debt, have a healthy respect for debt, and it will work for you. But if you treat it with disrespect, it will give you a hard time. So please go ahead and borrow, but do those things that I've asked you to do, assess and take debt when it's worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, but that one, I think it will take me long to explore it. I usually help my Gen Zs to help me explore that, but I'll send it to Grace and she'll be able to share the link with everyone who has been on the call and follows her webinars.
Thank you very much, Esther. I can see Herbert Zake has written your email address. Thank you so much, Herbert Zake, for having been with us. And he has also written your number, that is +256 77 243 4908. Thank you very much, Herbert Zake. Thank you so much.
Number. It's the WhatsApp number I just mentioned.
Yeah, your WhatsApp. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget to join our WhatsApp group. It has been shared by Jacinta. You can be able to click on it and join the group so that you can be able to be updated on the next discussions or things that are emerging in groups. It has been a wonderful pleasure and very delightful to have you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for creating time. Have a great night. God bless you. See you next Tuesday. Now you can say good night in your language. If you come from TZ, if you come from Uganda, if you come from Kenya, if you come from, say thank you using your language, use your language. If it is English, if it is French, if it's, Musule Burungi, that is Joseph. Great work done here, Asaba, Lala Unono, Sarah, Kungu, the usiku mwema, Joy Kimadi. Phoebe, I say thank you very much. Usiku mwema, Estanderito, Ero Kamano, Pamela, Ke Luboga, that is, I don't know what language is that. Lala Salama, Christine Kayaki. We have Martin Mugone Bulai. Then we have Lois Wainaina, who said Utoko Mwega. Then we have Collins, who said Uriamuno Senji Usiku. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Good night. God bless. Thank you very much, Catherine, for
all you folks that you own my life, you never made any sacrifice. Demons there on my trail, standing at the crossroads of hell. I look to the left, I look to the right, hands that grab me on the every side. looks like I got my prize, which I'll sell, that is mine. Think money rules when all else fails. Go sell your soul, keep your shell. I'm trying to protect what I keep inside, all the reasons why I live my life. I say the devil, he walking mad. He a fool, he a liar, conjuring a thief. Try to tell you what you want, try to tell you what you need.